Commander Alex Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. The patrol route along the outer colonies was usually quiet, but something felt different today. A strange tension hung in the air. "Commander, we're picking up an unidentified object on long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Samantha Wright, her fingers moving quickly across the control panel. "It's approaching fast. Very fast." Carter moved to her station and studied the readings. "Time to intercept?" "At current speed, less than 5 minutes. Sir, I've never seen anything move like this." Carter straightened his uniform and pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, this is Commander Carter. Battle stations. This is not a drill." The calm efficiency of a well-trained crew filled the ship. Officers moved to their positions, the weapon systems came online, and shields began charging. "Try hailing them," Carter ordered. Communications Officer Peter Gray nodded. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, sir." After a moment, he shook his head. No response. The object grew larger on the main screen. It was unlike any ship they had encountered before. Sleek, almost organic in design, with a dark surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Sir," said the tactical officer, "I can't get a weapons lock. Our targeting systems are having trouble. It's like the ship isn't fully there." Carter felt a chill run down his spine. "Full stop. Shields at maximum." The alien vessel suddenly accelerated, closing the remaining distance in seconds. "Evasive maneuvers," Carter shouted. But it was too late. A pulse of blue-green energy shot from the alien ship enveloping the Valiant. The lights flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the bridge in red light. "Status report," Carter demanded. "We've lost main power, weapons, engines, and communications," Wright reported, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Life support is on emergency backup. The pulse seems to have been designed specifically to disable our systems." Before Carter could respond, a violent shudder ran through the ship. The tactical display showed the alien vessel attaching itself to their hull. "They're forcing a dock at Airlock 4, the security chief reported. Carter grabbed his sidearm. "Get everyone to the escape pods now." "Sir, what about you?" Wright asked. "I'm going to buy you time." "That's an order, Lieutenant." Carter led a small security team toward Airlock 4. The emergency lighting cast long shadows in the corridors as they ran. They could hear strange noises coming from behind the airlock. Doors, metal grinding against metal, and something else, something that sounded almost like chittering insects. "Set up a defensive position," Carter ordered. "When those doors open, give them everything you've got." The airlock hissed and began to open. The security team opened fire immediately, but their laser weapons seemed to dissipate against some kind of field surrounding the creatures that poured through the opening. Carter got his first good look at the aliens. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with slender bodies covered in what looked like a dark exoskeleton. Their heads had multiple eyes arranged in clusters, and where a human would have a mouth, they had complex mandibles that moved. "Constantly fall back," Carter shouted as one of his team was grabbed by an alien appendage and pulled screaming into their midst. They retreated, firing constantly to slow the advance. Through his earpiece, Carter could hear that the evacuation was proceeding. "Escape." Pods were launching. "Commander, we're at 90% evacuation," Wright's voice came through. "Where are you?" "We're losing ground, Sam. Get the rest of the crew out. We're not leaving without you." Carter and what remained of his team were cornered in a junction. The aliens advanced methodically, seemingly unaffected by their weapons. "That's an order, Lieutenant. Get our people home." The aliens surged forward. Suddenly, one of them fired a weapon that released a cloud of glowing particles. When the particles touched human skin, the person dropped unconsciously to the ground. Carter fired his weapon until it overheated, then used it as a club when an alien got too close. But there were too many. The particle cloud reached him. His limbs grew heavy, his vision blurred. "Commander!" Wright's voice was the last thing he heard before everything went dark. He awoke in a space that defied human architecture. The walls pulsed with light that followed no pattern he could discern. The air felt thick and carried strange scents. Carter tried to move but found himself restrained on a surface that felt neither warm nor cold. He could turn his head enough to see other tables nearby, empty now but showing signs they had recently been occupied. His uniform had been removed, and small devices were attached to his chest, arms, and temples. They emitted a soft hum that resonated in his bones. A door that hadn't been visible slid open, revealing 3 of the aliens. One carried what looked like scientific equipment. They communicated in that strange, chittering sound. The alien with the equipment approached and studied him with its cluster of eyes. It made a motion, and a holographic display appeared above Carter, showing what he recognized as human anatomy. "Who are you?" Carter asked, his voice raspy. "What do you want?" The alien tilted its head, as if considering his words. Then it spoke, the sounds processed through some kind of translator. "You are Commander Alex Carter of the United Earth Space Force. We are the Krell. Why have you taken me? Where is my crew? Your kind fled. Only you remain." The Krell moved closer. "You have entered space that is not for humans. We gave warnings. They were ignored." "We received no warnings," Carter said. "We're on a peaceful patrol mission." The Krell made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans always claim peace while preparing for war. We have watched your kind, always expanding, always consuming." The Krell with the equipment placed a device against Carter's temple. Pain shot through his head. "Your physiology is interesting," the Krell said. "We will learn much from you. Then you will serve a purpose." "What purpose?" Carter asked through gritted teeth. The Krell's mandibles moved in what might have been their version of a smile. "You will be our message. Humans understand fear. When we return what remains of you, they will know to stay within their boundaries." The device sent another surge of pain through Carter's body. As darkness started to claim him again, he focused on one thought. He needed to survive not just for himself but for Earth. Whatever the Krell planned to do to him, he had to endure it. Humanity needed to know what they were facing. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was one of the Krell leaning over him with a cutting tool, its cluster of eyes reflecting his terror back at him. 8 months passed since Commander Alex Carter's abduction. On Earth, the military searched the area of space where the Valiant had been attacked, but found nothing. Lieutenant Samantha Wright, who made it back with most of the crew, told her story many times to different military boards. Each time, the pain of leaving her commander behind felt fresh. Admiral John Reeves sat in his office at United Earth Space Force headquarters in Nevada. Reports from the outer colonies covered his desk. All showed the same thing: a line in space that alien ships patrolled. Any human ship that went near that line was warned away by energy pulses similar to the one that had disabled the Valiant. "Another ship turned back at the boundary," said General Paul Harrison, who stood by the window. "The Krell, as Carter called them, seemed content to keep us boxed in." Reeves rubbed his tired eyes. "And still no response to our attempts to talk?" "None. It's like they don't even care what we have to say." The office phone rang. Reeves picked it up, listened for a moment, then stood up quickly. "We need to go, now." 20 minutes later, they stood in a secure room deep underground watching a video feed. A small object had crashed in the desert, 30 miles from the base. Teams in protective suits surrounded a pod, unlike any human craft. "It just appeared on radar and came down fast," said the officer in charge. "No warning, no signal." The team on screen carefully opened the pod. Inside was a man, thin and pale. His body was covered with strange marks and small metal objects embedded in his skin. "Is that..." General Harrison started. "It's Carter," Reeves said, his voice tight. "Get a medical team there immediately." Dr. Olivia Martinez worked for 16 hours straight after Commander Carter was brought in. The small metal objects in his skin were unlike anything she had ever seen. Some seemed to be monitoring devices. Others had unknown purposes. Scans showed changes to his internal organs and brain that suggested extensive experimentation. "Will he live?" Admiral Reeves asked when she finally came out of surgery. Dr. Martinez pulled off her surgical cap, her hands shaking slightly with fatigue. "Yes, I think so." His body has been through... I don't even have words for it. But he's stable now. When... Can I talk to him? He's heavily sedated. Give him at least a day to recover. 2 days later, Carter opened his eyes. He looked around the hospital room in confusion, then saw Lieutenant Wright sitting by his bed. She had dark circles under her eyes from keeping watch. Sam? His voice was rough from disuse. She jumped up, knocking over her chair. Alex, you're awake. She reached for the call button. I need to get the doctor. He caught her hand. Wait, just give me a minute. To be sure this is real. Wright's eyes filled with tears. It's real, you're home. Dr. Martinez arrived with Admiral Reeves close behind. They found Carter sitting up, drinking water that Wright had helped him with. Commander Carter, Reeves said. Good to have you back. Carter tried to salute, but winced, in pain. Sir, I have information, important information. That can wait until you've recovered more, Dr. Martinez said firmly. Carter shook his head. No, they could be coming. You need to know. Over the next few hours, Carter told them everything he could remember. The Krell were not part of any galactic collective as they had claimed. They were a single species trying to stop human expansion because they feared competition. They had studied Carter, treating him like a lab animal to learn about human biology. They put things in me, Carter said, looking at the metal objects visible under his skin. To monitor me, to change me. They thought the procedures would destroy my mind, leave me as just a shell to scare humanity. But they didn't count on how tough you are, Wright said with pride. Carter gave a weak smile. Human resilience surprised them. I pretended to be more affected than I was. I listened. I learned. Dr. Martinez showed them scans of Carter's brain. These implants contain data. We're still figuring out how to access it safely. The Krell thought they were sending back a broken human, Carter said. They didn't realize they were giving us everything we need to fight them. Admiral Reeves frowned. Fight them? Their technology is clearly advanced beyond ours. Not as much as they want us to think, Carter said. Their weapons and ships are powerful, but they have weaknesses. And their biggest weakness is their arrogance. They think we're primitive, that we'll cower in fear. Over the next week, as Carter grew stronger, Dr. Martinez and her team learned how to access the data in his implants. Star charts, Krell biology, weapons specifications, and ship designs, all were contained in the metal objects the aliens had put in Carter's body. One evening, Wright found Carter standing by the window of his hospital room, looking at the stars. The committee is meeting tomorrow, she said. They want to hear your recommendation. I know. What will you tell them? Carter touched one of the implants on his arm. The Krell think they know humans. They think sending me back like this would terrify Earth into submission. They were wrong, Wright said. Yes, they don't understand that humans don't give up. We don't back down when threatened. We fight harder. He turned to face her. We need to strike back, Sam. Not for revenge, but because if we don't, the Krell will eventually decide containing us isn't enough. That night, Carter had nightmares again. He relived the experiments, the pain, the feeling of being studied like an insect. But for the first time since his return, he also dreamed of something else. The look of surprise he imagined on the Krell scientists' faces when they realized their plan had backfired. The next morning, Carter dressed in a fresh uniform provided for him. The implants were still visible on his face and hands, but he no longer tried to hide them. They were part of him now, proof of what he had endured and the knowledge he had brought back. Dr. Martinez met him in the hallway. The data extraction is complete. We have everything. And the implants? Some we can remove safely. Others are too integrated with your systems. Removing them could kill you. Carter nodded. I suspected as much. Admiral Reeves and a group of high-ranking officials waited in the conference room. When Carter entered, they all stood as a sign of respect. Commander Carter, Reeves said, we're ready to hear your report and recommendation. Carter looked at each face in the room. These people would decide humanity's response to the Krell threat. He needed them to understand what they were facing and what opportunity they now had. The Krell made a mistake, he began. They needed to give humanity just one reason to strike back, and they gave it when they sent me home. The United Earth Senate chamber was filled with tension. 50 leaders from all parts of Earth sat in a half circle, facing the small group that stood ready to present. Commander Alex Carter waited with Admiral Reeves, Dr. Martinez, and Lieutenant Wright. The implants on Carter's face caught the light as he shifted nervously. President Elena Vasquez entered the chamber, and everyone stood. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She nodded at the assembly and took her seat. "We are here to discuss the Krell situation," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "Admiral Reeves, please begin." Admiral Reeves stepped forward.
8 days ago, Commander Carter returned to Earth after being held by the Krell for 8 months. The information he brought back changes everything we thought we knew about this alien species. A large screen showed images from Carter's implants,
Star maps, Krell ships, and weapon systems. The Krell told Commander Carter they represented a galactic collective, but that was a lie. They are a single species trying to block human expansion because they see us as future competition. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A senator from Africa stood up. "So they're not as powerful as they made us believe?" "Their technology is still ahead of ours," Reeves admitted, "but not by as much as they wanted us to think. And now, thanks to Commander Carter, we know their weaknesses." President Vasquez looked at Carter. "Commander, are you able to address the Senate?" Carter stepped forward. Some senators looked away from his implants while others stared openly. "The Krell think they understand humans," Carter said. His voice was steady despite his still healing body. "They think sending me back like this would frighten you into staying within the boundaries they set. They were wrong." He touched a control, and the screen showed images of Krell military bases. "These are their main defense stations. Their ships are fast, but their weapons take time to recharge after firing. Their communication systems operate on frequencies we can now track and potentially disrupt." Senator Gordon from Europe leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we attack them? Start an interstellar war?" Carter shook his head. "I'm suggesting we show them that humans won't be contained, that we won't live in fear. A focused strike on key military targets could bring them to the negotiating table without full-scale war." The debate that followed was heated. Some senators wanted immediate military action. Others feared the consequences of attacking a technologically advanced species. A few suggested trying diplomacy again, though all attempts so far had been ignored. Dr. Martinez presented medical data showing what had been done to Carter. Images of the experiments performed on him silenced the chamber. "The Krell see humans as test subjects," she said quietly. "Not as equals to negotiate with." During a break in the session, Carter stood by a window overlooking the city. Lieutenant Wright joined him. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I've been better," he admitted, "but I've also been worse." Wright's hand moved toward his, then stopped. "Some of the senators are afraid. They think any action will bring Krell warships to Earth. The Krell don't have as many ships as they want us to believe. That's part of what I learned." Carter touched one of the implants near his temple. "Most of their fleet is spread thin watching other developing species." "You really think we can win?" Wright asked. Carter looked out at the city below. "I think we can force them to respect us. That's a kind of victory." When the Senate reconvened, President Vasquez called for final statements before the vote. Senator Gordon stood first. "We should exhaust all diplomatic options before risking war." "We've tried for 8 months," Admiral Reeves countered. "They've ignored every message." Senator Mai from Asia spoke next. "If we do nothing, we accept living in a cage. The Krell draw a line in space and say, 'Stay here.' Is that the future we want for our children?" The debate continued until President Vasquez raised her hand for silence. "Commander Carter, you've suffered most at the hands of the Krell. What is your recommendation?" The chamber grew quiet. Carter stood, aware of all eyes on him. "When I was on the Krell ship, I heard them talk about other species they've contained. Some have been kept in small territories for hundreds of years, never allowed to grow beyond the space the Krell permit. They eventually lose the will to explore. They forget to look up at the stars with wonder. He paused, making eye contact with senators around the room. I don't want that for humanity, but I also don't want full-scale war. What I suggest is a precise operation. Target their main border patrol stations and communication hubs. Show them we can hurt them if pushed. Bring them to the table as equals, not as masters and pets. The vote was taken. The decision was made. Earth would strike back. Later that evening, President Vasquez met with the small group in a secure room beneath the Senate building. The operation is approved, she told them. But I want it clear. This is not revenge. This is not about punishment for what they did to Commander Carter. This is about securing humanity's future. Carter nodded. I understand, Madam President. Admiral, Reeves will oversee the military aspects. Dr. Martinez continue working with the data from the implants. We need every advantage. She turned to Carter. And you, Commander, need rest and recovery. With respect, Madam President, I need to be part of this operation, Carter said. I know the Krell better than anyone. I've been on their ships. I've seen how they fight. President Vasquez studied him carefully. The medical team says you're not fit for active duty. I'm not asking to lead the mission, but I can advise, help plan the strategy. After a moment, the President nodded. Very well. You'll serve as strategic advisor. But you follow medical orders, understood? Yes, Madam President. As they left the meeting, Admiral Reeves pulled Carter aside. We're calling it Operation Lazarus, he said. After the biblical figure who returned from the dead. Carter almost smiled. Fitting. That night, Carter sat in his quarters looking at star charts. The implants in his body hummed softly, a constant reminder of what he'd endured. But now they would serve a different purpose than the Krell intended. Instead of being a message of fear, they would be the key to humanity's response. On the table lay a small box, his personal effects that had been recovered from the Valiant. Inside was a photo of his family, a pocket watch from his grandfather, and his commander's insignia. Carter picked up the insignia and held it tightly. The Krell had sought to break him, to use him as a tool against his own people. Instead, they had given humanity the one thing it needed, a reason to strike back. And humanity would not waste the opportunity. The Earth fleet prepared in secret. Ships gathered at Jupiter's shadow, hidden from any watching eyes. Lieutenant Samantha Wright, now promoted to captain, stood on the bridge of her new ship, the UES Defiant. Engineers and crew members moved quickly around her, installing new systems based on the Krell data. The shield modifications are complete, her first officer reported. If the Krell try to disable us with that energy pulse again, we should be able to resist it. Captain Wright nodded. And the weapons? Adjusted to the frequencies Commander Carter provided. They should penetrate Krell defenses now. Wright walked to the viewport and looked out at the other ships gathering. 20 vessels, the best Earth had. Not a large force, but hopefully enough for what they needed to do. Her comm unit beeped. Captain, Commander Carter has arrived on board. Send him to the bridge. Minutes later, the bridge door opened. Carter entered, looking stronger than he had in the hospital, but still thin. The implants on his face caught the light. Some crew members tried not to stare, but most failed. Commander, Wright said, extending her hand. Welcome to the Defiant. Carter shook her hand. Congratulations on your promotion, Captain. I'd rather have earned it another way, she said quietly. They moved to the tactical room where officers gathered around a large display showing Krell space. Based on the data from Commander Carter's implants, Admiral Reeves said, we've identified 3 key targets: the main border patrol station, their central communications hub, and their fleet command center. Carter pointed to the border station. This should be our first target. It's the least defended of the 3. Taking it out will create a gap in their sensor network and give us a path deeper into their territory. Won't they detect us before we get there? Asked a captain from another ship. They might, Carter admitted, but we have Dr. Martinez's surprise for them. In the science lab of the Defiant, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked with her team. On a display in front of her, complex code scrolled past. She had dark circles under her eyes from long nights of work. The virus is almost ready, she told Carter and Wright when they visited her. It will use the same frequencies as your implants to access their systems. Carter rubbed one of the metal objects embedded in his arm. You're sure this will work? Dr. Martinez looked at him with concern. In theory, yes. But using your implants as the model, it means you're connected to this virus in a way. You might feel effects when we deploy it. What kind of effects? Wright asked sharply. Pain, possibly. The implants are linked to his nervous system. Carter nodded. It's worth the risk. This virus could save lives on both sides. Later, alone in the medical bay, Dr. Martinez ran another scan on Carter's implants. You didn't tell the captain everything, Carter said. About what might happen to me when the virus activates. Dr. Martinez put down her scanner. No, I didn't because you asked me not to. She would try to stop the plan. She might be right to. Martinez sat down next to him. These implants are deeply integrated with your system now. Using them to transmit the virus could cause damage we can't repair. Carter looked at his hands, at the metal pieces visible under his skin. The Krell did this to me to send a message. It seems fitting to use their work to send our own message back. Is this about the mission or is it about payback? Martinez asked gently. Carter was quiet for a long moment. When they had me on their table cutting into me, I told myself I had to survive to warn Earth. Now I'm asking myself if all this is just my need for revenge dressed up as duty. And what's your answer? I don't know, he admitted. But I do know that if we do nothing, the Krell will keep humanity caged forever. Others will suffer as I did. In the ship's gym, Carter tried to rebuild his strength. His body, once powerful, had been weakened by months of captivity and experimentation. Wright found him there, struggling with weights that would have been easy for him before. You're pushing too hard, she said. Carter set the weights down. I need to be ready. For what? You're not going into combat. He wiped sweat from his face. I should be out there with our people. Your job is here helping guide the mission. Wright stepped closer. We nearly lost you once. I won't risk losing you again. The moment stretched between them, full of things neither was ready to say. Sam. Carter started but was interrupted by the ship's alert system. All senior officers to the bridge, came the announcement. On the bridge, Admiral Reeves's face filled the main screen. We've just received intelligence that the Krell have detected unusual activity in our system. They are strengthening their border patrols. Have they discovered our fleet? Wright asked. No, but they're suspicious. We need to accelerate our timetable. We move in 18 hours. After the meeting, Wright found Carter in his quarters, studying Krell ship schematics. You should rest, she said. Tomorrow will be difficult. Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces. The ones who worked on me. Carter looked up at her. They never showed emotion, you know. Just clinical interest, like I was a specimen. Wright sat beside him. After tomorrow, they'll know we're not just specimens, that humans fight back. If we succeed. When we succeed. She touched his hand, careful to avoid the implants. Get some rest, Alex. That's an order. The next morning, final preparations moved quickly. Weapons were checked one last time. Dr. Martinez loaded her virus into the communication systems. The fleet moved into jump position. In the Defiance Ready Room, Carter met with Wright and her senior officers. He had put on a fresh uniform and, though the implant still marked him as different, his posture was once again that of a commander. The Krell think they know humans, he told them. They think they've studied us enough to predict what we'll do. They're wrong. Today we show them just how wrong. Admiral Reeves addressed the entire fleet from his flagship. His face appeared on screens throughout all 20 ships. Men and women of Earth, today we face an enemy who thought they could contain humanity's spirit, who thought they could set boundaries on our potential and enforce them through fear. They took one of our own, tortured him, and sent him back as a warning. The Admiral's eyes were hard. But they misunderstood us. Threats don't make humans cower. They make us stand taller. Today we answer their message with one of our own. Throughout the fleet, officers and crew took their positions. On the Defiance bridge, Captain Wright sat in the command chair, her back straight and her eyes forward. "All systems ready, Captain," her first officer reported. Wright looked at Carter, who stood beside her. "Any final advice, Commander?" "The Krell think in patterns," he said. "Break those patterns and they hesitate. That's when they're vulnerable." Wright nodded and opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships prepare for jump to Krell space on my mark." She took a deep breath. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The stars stretched and blurred around them as the human fleet leaped into battle. The human fleet appeared in Krell space like lightning from a clear sky. 20 ships against the border station that guarded Krell territory. On the Defiance bridge, Commander Carter watched the alien structure grow larger on the main screen. "They're powering up weapons," the tactical officer reported. "Shields at maximum," Captain Wright ordered. "All ships, commence firing pattern alpha." The Earth fleet moved in perfect coordination, each ship targeting specific points on the border station. The Krell fired back with powerful energy weapons, but the modified shields on the human ships held. "The shields are working," Wright said with relief. "They can't disable us." Carter nodded, his eyes fixed on the Krell response patterns. "They're following standard defense protocol, just as expected." The border station's outer defenses began to fail under the focused human attack. Krell ships scrambled to respond, but they seemed confused by the humans' ability to resist their weapons. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're intercepting Krell transmissions. They're calling for reinforcements." "Now, Dr. Martinez," Carter said into his comm unit. In the science lab, Dr. Martinez activated the virus program. It would travel through the Krell communication channels using their own network against them. "Virus deployed," she reported. Carter suddenly gripped the console in front of him, his face twisted in pain. The implants on his skin glowed with an eerie blue light. "Commander?" Wright half rose from her chair. "I'm fine," he said through gritted teeth. "The virus is working." On the tactical display, they watched as Krell ships began to lose power. Their movements became erratic, weapon systems failing. "Border station defenses are down," the tactical officer announced. "The virus is spreading through their network." Admiral Reeves' voice came over the comm. "Phase 1 complete. All ships, proceed to Phase 2. The fleet split into two groups. The larger group headed toward the communications hub deeper in Krell space. The Defiant and 3 other ships changed course for the Krell flagship. "Status of the virus?" Wright asked. "It's affecting all Krell systems in the sector," the science officer reported. "But they're already working to contain it. We have maybe 2 hours before they adapt." Carter straightened up, the pain subsiding slightly. "That should be enough." Time. The Defiant approached the massive Krell flagship. It was 3 times the size of any human vessel, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Even with compromised systems, it remained dangerous. "They're trying to target us, but their weapons are offline," the tactical officer said. "Now's our chance." "Prepare boarding teams," Wright ordered. "Commander Carter, are you sure you're up for this?" Carter checked his sidearm. The pain from the implants was a constant fire in his veins, but his eyes were clear and determined. "I need to be there. I know the layout of their ships." Wright wanted to argue, but knew he was right. "I'm coming too." The boarding teams launched, from the Defiant in small, fast shuttles. The Krell ship's hangar doors were forced open by the virus's interference with their systems. Human forces entered the alien vessel, moving through corridors that Carter had once been dragged through as a prisoner. "This way to the command center," Carter directed, leading Wright and a team of soldiers through the ship. They met resistance. Krell security forces fought with hand weapons and their natural strength. The fighting was intense, but the humans had trained for this, using the knowledge Carter had brought back. "They're stronger than us," Wright said as they took cover from Krell fire. "But they're predictable." Carter nodded. "They rely on patterns, break the pattern and—" "They hesitate," Wright finished. She signaled to her team, who then attacked. From multiple directions at once, confusing the Krell defenders. The path to the command center cleared. Carter felt a strange mix of fear and determination as they approached. The last time he had been on a Krell ship, he had been helpless. Now he returned with purpose. The doors to the command center opened. Inside, a group of Krell officers worked frantically to counter the virus. Among them was a figure Carter recognized, the chief scientist who had performed the experiments on him. The Krell turned, their cluster eyes widening at the sight of humans in their command center. The chief scientist stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what might have been surprise. "The test subject returns," the Krell said through a translator. "You were meant to be a warning, not a guide." "You misunderstood humans," Carter replied. "Threats don't frighten us, they unite us." Captain Wright stepped forward. "Your border stations are disabled, your communications hub is under attack, your systems are compromised, it's over." The Krell scientists studied them. "You could destroy this ship, kill everyone here. Why have you not?" "Because unlike you," Carter said, "we don't want to eliminate potential rivals. We want to coexist. But as equals, not as caged animals." Wright presented a data device. "These are our terms, a new boundary further out. Free passage for human ships through agreed corridors, and no more abductions." The Krell commander, larger than the others, moved forward. "If we refuse?" In answer, the ship shuddered as the human fleet outside fired a warning shot. "That was at 10% power," Wright said calmly. "The next one won't be." The implants in Carter's body pulsed with pain again, but he kept his face steady as he faced the scientist who had put them there. "You thought you knew us. You studied our bodies, but not our spirit. Humans don't surrender when cornered. We fight harder." After what seemed like a long time, the Krell commander took the data device. "We will consider your terms." 3 days later, the human fleet returned to Earth space. The mission had succeeded beyond expectations. The Krell had agreed to negotiations, their belief in human inferiority shattered by the precise, effective strike. On the Defiance observation deck, Carter stood looking out at the stars. Earth was a blue jewel in the distance, growing larger as they approached home. Wright joined him, standing close. "The doctors think they can remove most of the implants now that the mission is complete." "Not all of them," Carter said. "Some will be with me forever, like the memories." He nodded. "But I can live with both." President Vasquez had already announced the outcome to Earth's people. A new treaty would be signed. Human ships would be allowed to travel beyond the old boundaries. The cage door was open. "What will you do now?" Wright asked. "Admiral Reeves offered me a new assignment, leading a diplomatic and scientific mission to the edge of Krell space and beyond. Making contact with other species, but on our terms this time." Wright smiled. "Sounds dangerous." "Probably." Carter turned to her. "I could use a good captain." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job, Commander?" "I'm offering you an adventure, Sam." As the Defiant approached Earth, news of their success spread throughout the planet. The Krell had thought one broken human would terrify a species into submission. Instead, that one human had become the key to humanity's liberation. The Krell had needed to learn what many had discovered before them. Humanity needed just one reason to strike back. And in their arrogance, they had provided that reason when they sent him back.